College Board of Trustees workshop session at 4:45 on May 14, 2020. Hope this message finds you well, safe, and healthy as we continue to be in uncertain times. We appreciate all that you do for that. So for today's strategic plan, for today's workshop, I apologize, it's on the strategic plan. This is the board's third time having a workshop on this. So it's the final one before we're going to approve it next month. So Jessica, can we just get roll call of attendance, please?
Yeah, Kevin M. Martin.
Here.
Cam Ross.
Here.
Rodney Fitzgerald, Rodney G. Doris Graham.
Here.
Craig Larson.
I'm here.
And Marshall's not here.
So thank you so much for joining us today. Dennis, I appreciate all of your work on this. Everyone should have got an updated document today from Dennis. I am going to share my screen because apparently I have that capability. So that way you can all see the document that we're talking about. Because we're not voting anything, it's probably important that you actually see the document. Can everyone see what's on display?
Yes.
Yes.
So first off, thank you to Kedra's team. I assume Kedra's team worked on the design of it. And so I appreciate the conciseness, the folding, and making it a nice visible document for that. So Dennis, we can start on the left side of the mission, vision, and values and go through there and see if there's any feedback. And then we'll start with the strategic themes, and then we'll go to goals, and then we'll end with the key performance indicators or our scorecard.
Okay, so as Kevin said, we've been through these a few times, so there probably were just a few minor changes. Do you want me to read each statement and then see if there's feedback, or how do you want to go through this?
Yep. So nothing really changed on the mission, vision, or values from the feedback from last time. I think we ended the mission with empowering students, expanding minds, and changing lives, which
Right.
was what we all agreed with last time. So Dennis, I don't know if there's a ton on this side, if anyone has any feedback, thoughts, or concerns. Pam, are you good with those?
Yeah, it looks fine to me.
Craig?
Okay.
Doris?
Yes, it looks fine.
Perfect. So then we can go to strategic plans and themes. And Dennis, I guess if you want to highlight the ones that we changed since last time.
Okay, that would be under 2A, attract and work with diverse external partners to address the needs of the communities we serve. We had something that sort of had that intent, but it wasn't real clear. Let's see, there was, equity, diversity, and inclusion. I think all of those changed. So let me go through them.
Wait, stop a minute.
Go
Sorry.
ahead, Dr. Graham.
Dennis, can you hear me?
Yes.
The one that you just said, before you go any further, could you make that more clear to me? Created and, no, that wasn't it. Attract and work with diverse external partners. Give me some examples, what you mean by diverse external partners.
Well, it's purposely open so that that can be a variety of different definitions. So it could be any kind of, well, let's see. If you look at the MBE and WBE firms that we're trying to do more business with, those would be examples of diverse partners that we want to give a priority to.
Okay.
So
I think it could also include like K through 12 and universities and others, right?
It could include what Pam's
Right.
working on with social workers, kind of making that connection with Brown School of Social Work and things like that as well.
Okay, good. It's more clear now. And I see what you mean. You left it open to work with diverse external partners. So any of those partners that we come up and, that we think are good to work with.
Right, because our needs may change over time and
Right. Okay.
working on a project where we want a certain group to work with us, that kind of thing. So this leaves that open.
Okay. Thank you.
So let's look at equity, diversity, and inclusion. Create an environment that allows for diverse opinions and perspectives. Any comments on that one?
So this is really where we start talking about the culture of our organization and making sure that we're creating one that allows for supporting diverse opinions as well as perspectives throughout. So we thought that language allowed it to be open, but still very clear that we were talking about making sure that all voices are at the table, to be clear with that.
Right. So the second one, increase equity in student success. I think probably all of us agree with that. And that's the idea that all of our students get what they need to be successful. Any comments on that? Okay.
I like it.
Recruit and retain employees at all levels who better reflect the diversity of the St. Louis region. And that's something the board has been talking about for a while. To have our, and it's actually in the KPIs too, to have our workforce more closely reflect our student body.
I would just comment as sort of a footnote, when we get into doing the scorecard, I think we ought to highlight this section in the scorecard somehow, keeping, put some data out there around different employee groups and, what kind of diversity we have at any point in time, and I don't know, set goals or something. But anyway, be as transparent about it as we can.
Yeah, and we will talk about it more when we get to the KPIs. And then the last one in that theme is continue to develop an atmosphere of diversity, civility, and respect. And that is basically, Keith Fuller has accomplished quite a bit in the time that he's been here working with the Diversity and Inclusion Council. We want to recognize that, but also recognize that there's always room for improvement, no matter how good something is.
Right.
And there'll be a direct KPI scorecard for that one specifically that will
Right.
show up in a minute. Any other questions about that one? And then there's one other change, right, Dennis?
Right. Yeah, all four of those changed.
And any under number 4 that changed?
I'm sorry.
Did any under number 4 resource development change?
Oh, yeah.
D.
So let's see. Oh, actually, we kind of reworded these, but they're pretty much the same. The last one, though, develop a long-term facilities plan to strategically meet the future needs of the market and community. When we talked about the strategic facilities plan before, we were talking about maybe just looking at a few upgrades to buildings here and there, that kind of thing. But this is more comprehensive. This is looking at, where should we be with our facilities in the future?
Any questions about the themes or the goals before we go to the scorecard, which is the newest piece for the board? Okay. So Kedra, the only thing I would say I think we need to add on here is or Dennis, is probably just that non-discrimination statement. If this is gonna be a published document, that was one thing that I noticed you probably want to add on here. It's somewhere. Because I think that we have to have that on all the documents.
Yes,
Okay,
we'll
So
just need to figure out where.
yeah,
Yeah,
there's not much space left.
Nope.
yeah,
Right here on this blue spot. So the
Now
last thing for the
trifold.
board, which is what Dr. Larson was leaning towards, is really the key performance indicators, which is what the board will be looking at to measure at the board level, are we making progress or not making progress? And so Dennis and I met, and these are some of the ones we came with that I think at a board level are important. Of course, Dr. Pittman and his team will have other ones, but at a board level, this is, in my opinion, for us to decide, like, are these the appropriate ones or not? Without getting too much into detail of things, I don't think we need to get way down there. It's the bigger picture thing. So Dennis, you just want to kind of walk through the bold ones, each bold one, and then we can go from there.
Sure. So the first one is persistence and persistent rate, graduation rate. And the thinking is those are at a basic level, those are the real good indicators of if our students are making progress, if they feel like the offerings we have are helping them. Because if they stay, which would be persistence and keep coming back, and if they make it to graduation, then we are helping them in the way they want to be helped. And so our programs are working and that kind of thing.
It's also one of the most used indicators across the country. I'm sure Dr. Pittman could talk to that. But
Yeah, and yeah, so we get information from the national student. I'm drawing a blank on the
And
actual
benchmarking.
Yeah, benchmark. National
Isn't there
Community
a set
College
of-
Student Benchmarking Project. And so we benchmark ourselves against similar institutions. So we have our own, and then where we stand in relation to similar type institutions on that particular one.
Does the
Sorry.
government still collect data? I think they call it iPad, but I don't know if that's right. But something like that, is that data still collected and available to compare colleges?
Yes, that's where we really pull a lot of that data from, Craig, is the iPads, 150% to completion time. Both 3 years and then 300% or 6 years to complete an associate degree. So we get both, capture both sets of data. I believe we are also looking at changing up to include transfer rates in here. Isn't that correct, Dennis?
Yes. Yeah, the actual measurement is the this rates. Oh, I had it on my other one. Oh, here we go. The 3-year and 6-year graduation or transfer rate. So that tells us not only graduation, but for students who are here for the first 2 years of their 4-year degree, the transfer rate also. And like I said, those are standard benchmarking measurements that we use. Any more questions on that one? Okay, course success rates. So this is a project that we've been working on. We talked about it in a board workshop a year or 2 years ago. And so we have it now. It's rolling out in the fall. And we found a benchmarking statistic, percent of attempted credit hours successfully completed, that we're going to use as a high-level benchmark, but then we're going to include a narrative with each benchmark, and that will explain, that allows us to, like, if we're focusing on the gateway courses that are high enroll, high enroll, low pass, or we're focusing on some group of courses, then we can provide the board with a narrative on where we started and how we made progress in those areas. So, because I don't think you want to look at the success rate for every individual course that we offer. So we have this overall indicator, and like I said, every KPI will be accompanied by a report.
Thank you. So just, I know we have time's sake, I don't want to rush it. the next one is, I did have some feedback in terms of, it's not just contracts, it's also purchase of goods or purchase of services. So we want to make sure it's not just listed as contracts, but also purchases of goods or whatever the definition is.
So do we want to call it something like partnerships?
No, I think it's purchase of goods, and Paul Zink would know what it's called specifically, but also if you're not speaking, if you can just put it on mute, that way there won't be as much feedback. I don't know where the feedback's coming from, but if you hear it, I hear it too. But
Yeah. Thank you.
yeah, so it should be like WB and MBE, and Paul can get you the terminology. I think it's purchase of services, or it's not a purchase of goods, whatever it's called. It's not just contracts of construction.
Okay. I will get that from him.
And I think for everyone, it's important to know that the board will get, Dr. Pittman will set some goal with this, but the first year, a lot of it's going to be baseline information because we haven't necessarily collected any of this information yet. So it would be good to see where we get baseline information. Any questions about WB or MBE? All right. Employee equity training.
Yeah, so the idea here is the first year, the HR can easily produce a report of the diversity of our workforce. So the first year, what they want to do is survey the employees to find out the kinds of training they need to provide to increase our equity, diversity, inclusion, and the open thinking, the things we were talking about earlier. So, and then that survey would become the baseline, and then in following years, we would see where we are in comparison to that baseline. And of course, you would get the workforce diversity report every year also.
Thank you. And I think as a board for all these, as we just kind of figure out the baseline information will be important just to kind of see what type of training or MBE or whatever that case may be, just kind of what is entailed in that. Rodney, did you have a question or anything? Are you good?
Yeah, just a thought in that space, and perhaps we can benchmark with another college that's gone through this, who may be able to give us some insight as to what they did to move that particular area. Just a thought there.
Okay. Okay. That's a good idea. Any other thoughts on that particular one? Okay, strategic facilities plan. This is, as I said earlier, more complex than fixing sidewalks and roofs and that kind of thing. This is taking the time to really look at what we want to do with our facilities. So most likely it would involve having maybe a planning firm, an architectural firm, or somebody like that to take all that good information from that tax levy survey, look at industry trends, predictions for the future, all those kinds of things, marketplace and economic trends, and come up with a really good strategic facilities plan. And again, that probably would be the first year, and then there'd have to be some decisions on, which projects that they identify that would want to move forward with.
And I assume Dr. Pittman's, I know we talked about having probably some money in the budget to be able to find that firm, to be able to identify truly what all the future construction needs would be of the district, I assume.
Yeah, I think that has to be a line item that we have to consider, particularly if we're going to move forward with a ballot item in a year or so. That could help fund all this work.
Thank you.
And I I misspoke earlier. The employee equity training would be well, it would still involve a survey. Okay, but the workforce diversity report would be part of this one, the STLCC workforce diversity. So what I was saying earlier about HR would survey employees, see what kinds of equity training need to be provided. That's all true. I added the workforce diversity report into there by accident, and I apologize for that. So this is where you would get the STLCC workforce diversity report, which HR can produce. And then out of that, there would be some analysis and some, as Trustee G suggested, looking at other colleges to see what we can do to move our workforce to more closely match the diversity of the St. Louis region. So any comments on that or questions?
Is that using Safe Colleges?
Probably, yes.
The
Well,
training, I
no,
would,
I'm sorry,
not the training.
not
the-
this one. And that's probably my fault.
Oh,
'cause
okay, all right.
I
Okay,
confused
sorry.
the two in my mind. Yeah, this one is looking at the annual workforce diversity report, and then generating projects out of that we think will change the makeup of the workforce to more closely align with the makeup of the St. Louis region.
And just Jeff, as you mentioned, safe training or whatever that it's called there, I think some of us on the board are not envisioning it just being an online computer program that all employees go through, but more the equity training is in person, the real work in groups training, not just an annual training. So I just want to make sure we're clear that I don't think the board's interest or intention is for that one to entail just online computer training, but more true professional development that's hands-on, engaged, whether it's a book study or something else where they're engaging with equity, diversity, and inclusion work. And if I misspoke for anyone on the board, please chime in.
I wish we could start tomorrow. I sure miss seeing everybody.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. It's that equity and diversity piece is really an important piece to me. I've been a facilitator for the Witnessing Whiteness program that the YWCA offers. It's only for white people. That's the crux of it. But Amy Hunter is the person that started the program. But I think Amy would be a great resource also to be in touch with about how, what kind of program we can have for our college and for the folks here. But she's a wealth of information, and anything that Amy would suggest, I think it would be terrific. So I think we've got a lot of good resources here in the city to check with.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure we were clear on the equity and training piece. So, and I think the last two go together, Dennis.
Yeah, we already used the Noel Levitt student satisfaction inventory. So, and we had talked about the board just looking at a couple of questions, a small number of questions from that, but we have an even better solution because they have scale scores. So they group questions that get to the same thing together, so you get a better, well-rounded look at it. So the ones that we probably would use are, there's a scale score for student-centeredness. There's another one for concern for the individual, and there's another one for campus climate. So we thought we're going to explore them a little more, take a little more time to do that. But those ones would basically tell us how our students feel. Do they feel like people care about them, want to help them? Do they get the help they need on their campuses? Those kinds of things. And then there's a companion institutional priority survey, and that has scale scores also. But with that, we also are allowed to have up to 10 questions specific to our institution. Now, those would not have benchmarks because, there are questions. but all of the other scale scores would have benchmarks so we could see how our students feel in comparison to other similar institutions, and we could see how our employees feel in comparison to other similar institutions. And then as a bonus, we get to, craft our own questions for anything that we might want to focus on in a particular year.
And to me, from a board, just as we've kind of heard over years of just, do our employees feel respected? Do they feel like they're being heard? Do they feel like this is a place they would recommend others to be? Those types of things that we've, obviously when the board hears things, we only hear a selective voice. So really having some data that shows what is the climate and culture of their whole organization is helpful from our level, I think, to see where we're at and where we're not at and where we can improve on as an organization. So certainly I think for me, the employee climate survey, especially as we work about diversity, inclusion, and equity, really figuring out some questions that align to those pieces. Do people feel like they are respected and valued and appreciated, and their voice is heard and included?
I would argue that it'd be a good idea to use a professional product rather than just create, and one that could give you automatic comparisons, and they check the questions. They kind of know what people think when they read a particular question. I know we've done some of that with higher ed products, but this might not be a higher ed product. I don't know what's out there.
Well, this is a standard survey. So we've been using the Noel Levitt student survey for several years, and this is the companion employee one. So we would have benchmarks, but besides that benchmarking data, what I'm saying is if we wanted to know about a certain couple of topics, we have up to 10 questions.
Okay, so that's what you're saying. We could add in our own questions.
Yeah. And of course, those would not have benchmarks, but all the
Right.
rest of it would.
Right. Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry.
Dennis, I might add that it will be interesting to see what the student's perspective of is in regards to how their service, the service they're receiving in education versus the employee's perspective of the service and education they're providing to students. That's going to be what's interesting between all the different scales.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's great information for projects to work on.
So thank you again for this. Now, as the board, he'll make those minor tweaks and then it will be sent out to the college community to provide one last round of feedback before it comes to the board.
Okay, I can do that.
I'm asking. I see Kedra saying yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
I just
we
think it's
did-
important to get feedback one last time from anyone else to make sure everyone can kind of provide their voice, and then we can approve it at the June meeting.
okay. Yeah,
For Dennis
I'll
and
talk-
Kevin, I want to say thanks. This is a really good document. It may be a little modeled after MCCA, or
MCCA's is a little different.
but it is very well
I
done.
think it's
A
better.
nice document.
I
Thank
think
you.
It's better
Well
than
done.
CC.
It is nice having a
Yeah.
one-page document to look at instead of looking at multiple pages and thing like that. So
Right.
thank you, Dennis. Thank you, everyone. At
Okay.
this time, I'm going to call to order and roll call vote for our executive session and vote to hold it. And then we're actually going to switch over after that point in time. So publicly, like we normally would do, we vote publicly to go into executive session. So can we get a roll call vote for our executive session meeting?
Kevin Martin,
Here.
Pam Ross,
Pam's on mute.
okay, I can't see her.
She's there now.
Pam Ross,
Yes.
Libby Fitzgerald, Rodney G,
Yes.
Doris Graham,
Yes.
Craig Larson,
Here,
Ann Marshall.
Here.
Thank you. Doris, just so you know, we have to, for this next one, we actually have to see you to be able to vote. So I need a motion to hold executive session for human resource items 610.0213, 9, and 13. Legal and client communication 610.0211, and real estate 610.0212.
So moved.
Been moved by G,
Second.
second by Marshall. Any comments, questions, concerns?
No.
Roll call vote, please, Jessica.
Libby Fitzgerald,
Yes.
Rodney G,
Yes.
Doris Graham,
I can't vote because I already was getting ready to get into the next session.
Oh, no, that's fine. You can vote now for this.
Oh, I can? Well, yes, then. Okay.
Craig Larson,
Yes.
Ann Marshall,
Yes.
Pam Ross. Pam Ross,
She looks frozen right now.
Kevin and Martin.
Oh, boy. I don't know.
Yes, we have a quorum. So we're going to go ahead and switch over to our other session. Thank you so much, everyone. I'll see you all shortly.
Okay.